sometimes that historical sense that we spoke about the last two times goes too far, and you find that people of the last generation are mitzubrach, disgruntled, upset about the last generation. They don't appreciate the kochos of the new men. In fact, my father-in-law told me that, growing up in yeshivas in the 60s and 50s, sometimes you would find older Rosh Yeshiva that come from Europe and they just couldn't handle the American Bachram. They thought they were going to teach the finest in Europe, and then the apple pie eating, baseball playing American Bachram, they just couldn't connect. And that lack of connection caused them not to be successful. I saw this in a few places, and then you had people like Mendel Kaplan who broke through, and many others who saw and chapped and understood the American perspective and the kochos and the godless and the potential that was there amongst American Bachram, and they were tremendously matzliach. Rebelsky, in the book about Rebelsky, the Rosh Torah B'das, a recent Gadol comments the same thing about Elia Chazan. He was once in a Rebbe's room as a young Rebbe, and one of the Rosh Yeshiva came in, or one of the older Ram came in and said, American Bachram are geferlich, they're terrible. And Elia Chazan, who was famed as one of the greatest of the Magidei Shir and Torah B'das and most successful, said, how could you say that? There are Bachram here that are better than the best Bachram in Europe. And Rebelsky commented that I knew those boys, and they weren't as good as the best in Europe, but Rebbe Chazan's perspective is what was matzliach. So therefore, we might expect with the Ponevezher Rav, with that deep historical sense, talking with Shartitos, making Batei Midrashis with the amount of people. Lita was always living in Lita, always thinking about the old days, but in fact, quite the opposite. Here's a quote of what he said. Hador Tzayir, listen to this. This generation is Meshubach Pi Kama Min Hador Shlefanenu, is better, much better than the door before. Before 65 years, there was a great door of Yerushalayim, true, but today there's a sviva which is mekulkeled the oyanit, which is off and enemied, kind of, and the door, this door sees that, and still it's mushash b'Yerushalayim, so it's on a higher madrega. That was one thing he said. My son told me, it was known that he had a machlokas with Rav Shach, one of the Rosh Yeshiva that he appointed, of course, we discussed before, in the yeshiva, and Rav Shach said that in Lumdis, the door in Europe was better, and the Ponevezher Rav said, no, our door is better in Lumdis. They have a greater tefis in learning, a more developed sense for Lumdis than the last generation. And also quoted was, he commented that there were great masmidim in Europe, but that the yeshiva would be open ben azmanim, because some of the Talmidim wouldn't leave this Pili Ploim. This is a wondrous thing. We hadn't seen that. So he was always looking with a positive nature, and that's really the true balance. And that's what the true picture. It wasn't enough to listen to the last two sessions. You had to listen today, and that was always going to be balanced. The third, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Bechiravis is going to be the one who has the koch of three to bring things together, bring a balance together, Tiferes HaTorah. So that's the balance. Of course, but with a positive attitude about the potential that's around today. I'm building towards with a deep historical sense, but it's not that I'm disgruntled and upset and sad about the situation today, but I see the potential of the generation that is. And I think with the Ponevezher Rav, we see that very much with his involvement in the Yarchei Kala, right? As I said, it's an amazing thing the way it's brought down, that the yeshiva, the running of the yeshiva, he really gave over to the other Rosh Yeshiva, the Mashgichim. As we said, sometimes it wasn't even almost noted. Rav Chatzkel Levenstein said we didn't even appreciate sometimes when he came and when he left. He was always so busy. But when it came to Yarchei Kala, that yeshiva, which was for Balabatim, for those that work and had time, and he created that concept, and that was the concept that his friend Yeshua Zelig Diskin thought he was just not shaykh, and not realistic concept at all, to see that, no, Balabatim can come and learn. That is the same point, to see the potential, not just in the great Talmidei Chachamim of the next generation, but to see that the person selling shoes, running a company, the businessman, the scientist, that they have a chelik in Torah also. It's the same midah, not to just live in the old days in the highest level, but to appreciate people where they were and to see their potential. So that gives another aspect of his godless, the historical sense, of course, but tremendous belief and a tremendous appreciation of those that he's working with. And really, from what I've learned, all those that are matzliach always have to have that sense, maybe even more than the historical sense we could think about, but the sense and the belief in the door that you're living in and the potential of those you're working with, and that we can today do so much and be so much, and that's the road which lies in front of every generation.